Y is recorded in front of a live studio audience.
How's your jaw doing? Or your TMJ?
It's
I guess
getting
it's jaw.
it feels better, but it's not gone. Like I think maybe it.
So what'd the dentist do? Are you getting
Well,
headgear?
no, that would
No.
be amazing. I hope I do get headgear. I've now been to two massage therapists who specialize in like TMJ,
Okay.
and they're really good and different, and they both have helped immensely.
Can I ask what sounds like a flippant question? Where do they massage?
Well, they give you like a regular massage too, because I'm not going if I'm just getting my
Yeah,
head
come on,
and mouth
please.
massage because I want the whole shebang.
No.
Because I got like, but they do like the outside of your mouth, and then
Hmm.
also that's why they're not at like one like the ones that got their own place, one's at a chiropractor's office.
Oh, so
Um,
is it kind of like the thing at the airport where you sit in that chair and then they do go
no,
to town on you?
no,
Oh,
it's
okay.
still on the massage table, but they
Okay.
like have to put they like have gloves on,
Mm.
but they do like the outside of your mouth and your jaw and like by your ear, and then they also go inside your mouth
Oh,
in
hello.
like dental gloves.
Mm. At what point did you say I'm not tipping?
No, I
How's that?
tip.
Okay. Is it like is there music? Is it like
Yeah, classic rock.
they come in with a no, I can't get a massage to classic rock.
Oh, it's great.
What was it? Slow ride?
No, it's great because one was the first one place was, and they're not related to each other. The first place I had the Stones and Bowie and
Okay.
Tiny Dancer. It was
All
like,
right.
and then I had Ramble On, which I mean, what more could you want? It was perfect. It was perfect for the environment. I had because I had oh my God, now you've got me calling it Major Tom. The other, you know,
The yes.
yeah, that one.
Ziggy Stardust? No, not Ziggy
No, oh
Stardust.
my God.
Life on Mars.
Life on Mars.
Yes.
And which Stones one was it? They were all perfect. It was like
Really?
yeah, they were all really perfect for what I needed.
I want
And
like Grateful Dead, China Cat Sunflower, 1974, and the masseuse to have a rain stick with them in the background that they're just tipping back and forth.
no, it was so great because I mean,
Really?
for that thing, I needed something a little more, but I didn't need it to be like ragey, but I needed it to be like a little different. So I
Did
could
they
like
do the
get
thing with like the peppermint right under your nose as you're.
not for this one, not for
Okay.
this. But then today,
Cucumber water.
not today. But
Okay.
then today, I opened up with a whole bunch of Talking Heads. It
Fine,
was
I get it.
perfect.
I
No, it
I
was
want
perfect.
I
No,
want
for
to
my
just go
regular
out there.
massage, yes, but
Right.
for this, you have to be coherent and you have to be able to tell them like how it feels and what the level is, and is it like this is more like s-
Is
almost
it
more
me
like a
that I can hold two things in my head at the same time? I can listen to
probably.
Enya and speak?
No, I don't ever want Enya.
Well,
No
no,
offense to
but
Enya, but that's
you know
not
what I'm
my.
saying?
That
Like,
just
put on
takes me
some
back
John
to
Tesh.
like.
Let's just chillax.
I know, but this is a little different because this is like solving a specific.
There's always time for John Tesh and the love
Well,
between him and
yes.
Connie Salica. I
Well,
mean,
of
come on.
course, clearly.
But I don't know about this. That's not how I want to
But I
relax.
also make sure that I have like the regular massage too,
Yeah, okay.
because I have to have all, Libras and all. We got to have everything.
But you can't be lying there on the table trying to relax and they're playing Can't You Hear Me Knockin'.
Well, I didn't hear Can You Hear Me Knocking?
I know, but you know what I'm saying.
I know, but I am very happy when I hear like Tiny Dancer.
Right. Was it like Moonlight Mile we talking about when it came to the Stones?
No, what
Loving
was
Cup?
it?
Or was it
No,
like,
what was it?
Get off my cloud?
No, which I do love that song. It's one of my favorites.
Of course you do. Is it something off of like Satanic Majesties? Like there's certain
No.
Stone songs where I can reach a moment of zen.
Was it Wild? No, it wasn't Wild Horses. I don't know. It'll come to me as we're talking.
Okay.
I've been beat up a lot lately, so
I
things are a little.
being beat up and battered around, been picked up and been shot down and
Yeah,
yeah.
basically.
Yeah, so we should start this year in this episode in particular. We are talking with Cassie Sobelton, who is a author and
Wellness expert,
wellness expert, and
entrepreneur.
entrepreneur, dreamer, philosopher, poet, king.
She's not a king.
Okay. But we should acknowledge that we know her outside of the program.
We do.
So that is there. We are not trying to hide anything
That's
from you, but
right. That's not why we had her on the program, though, because we know lots of
correct.
people that we don't have on the
Oh, they're
program.
complete a-holes who are not on the show.
Right.
And we should also acknowledge, but to that end, we could say, like, I think some of this stuff you have utilized in the past and can speak to its validity as a helpful method of going about life.
Yes.
Yes.
Agreed.
So, for better and for worse, we felt like we should say something.
Right. Because we're honest
Right.
about these things.
Yeah. Could she help with your jaw?
She has helped with my jaw, actually.
Okay. But she wasn't,
Yeah.
she didn't like have to put on gloves and put her hand inside your mouth or something.
No, she made
Okay.
she's dealt with issues like this, and she made a great recommendation for someone I can go see that I
Okay.
will to help me with a mouth guard and her one of her products for her like CBD cream.
Oh, that's
Honestly.
true. That would help a lot.
That's been the thing that's helped the most with my jaw. So
Do you think when you go back to one of these places, whether it's a chiropractor's office or massage parlor or whatever, do you think you could bring your own Spotify playlist? Do you think they'd be cool with that?
the one place would, yes.
They would be? Okay.
I don't know why you're so stressed about this. We're not in the same state, so
I know, but I'm
I'm
just
not going to
saying,
refer you there.
don't worry, I'm not going.
You
Like,
probably could benefit from them.
well, yes, but like if I go in there and they've got blood on the tracks going, like I'm not going to walk out of there being like that was a very relaxing massage.
Well, they've both said we could change the music, but I was pleased with the
Okay.
music, so I should preface that.
Okay, yeah, that's burying the lead just a
Sorry.
little.
Well, I was happy it was somewhat different than like usually when I go get a massage, it is very like tranquil, zenny, gongy.
Right, that's what I want. I want a gong. I want
I know, but
Stevie Wonder's Secret Life of Plants. Like
this
this is
was
what
a
I'm.
different kind of thing, and
Hell,
I
give me
like that it
talking
was a
book. Like I don't.
this was a different kind of party.
It was, yes. I'm just, regardless of one's level of relaxation, like my chiropractor that I go to, and you know how I feel about the genre of music. Um, there's a lot of seals and
Well,
crofts, crofts, plural, multiple crofts.
yeah.
I believe I've heard our friend Jacques and Firefall there,
Mhm.
and like, listen, very rarely am I in the mood for Christopher Cross and getting caught between the moon and New York City. But like, I'm gonna tell you, when you're lying on that table with your face down, they've got the electronic stimulation thing that kind of feels like they want you to give up some sort of secret,
Hmm.
and the other part wants to just relax your muscles. I, it's okay. It's not the worst thing in the world.
Well, right.
But if I was lying on that table and they're playing Jump into the Fire by Harry Nilsson, I'm going to be a complete wreck.
Well, but again, like these weren't, again, it was like Tiny Dancer. It was,
Right.
but I
But if
sort
they
of
just had
felt
like the
like,
radio on, Saturday night's
no,
all right for fighting's coming in there at some
they
point.
didn't just have the radio on. It was a
This
playlist.
was okay. Okay.
Was a playlist. And again, I do tend to lean towards like the Penny Lane, like go to the, the Almost Famous, you can go to the record store and like see your friends, right? So it was really nice to like go in there today and then, oh, here's Talking Heads. That's our, like, there's Chris Franz, our friend. It's kind of nice. That's really lovely to be like, and then like my massage therapist was saying like they loved Otis Redding. So that's like, well, that's like Steve Cropper, right? That's our
Try low
friend.
tenderness. Sure.
Right. So that's That's
I'm
what
just
it was.
saying, if they start playing Nebraska State Trooper in particular,
Again,
run like hell.
of course, there are certain
Thank you.
things.
This is Why, with your hosts, Heidi Hedquist and Luke Poling.
Let's talk about this new book, The Power Reset. You're suggesting we should not be fighting the power, but we should be taking the power back?
That's a great way to put it.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Uh, what power is this that we are taking back?
So I believe we are all born with an innate power, and that power rules over our life in every way. Should that be mental, physical, emotional, spiritual? There are so many different areas of our life that we do have power in, but we often give that away. And if we give that away to leaders of any kind, it could be political, it could be, starting out, I guess, from when we're small, it would be our family, it would be teachers,
Oh
it would
man,
be,
yeah.
the organizations that are ruling over us, coaches, those types of things. And then as we age, that's going to become different types of leaders. But many leaders are wonderful and they're mentors and they're teaching people the right thing and they're empowering them. But not all of them are that way. And all of us have not been raised and groomed by people who wanted to give us our power. And so we lose it. We slowly over time start doubting ourselves. We start doubting our decisions. We start doubting the inner voice inside of us. And I believe that when we reconnect with that, if in fact we had been pulled away from it, it's empowering and life changing. And things shift that people don't expect to shift, and lives become a lot better.
So,
Oh, go ahead.
no, go for it.
This is why we edit.
Yeah.
And how do you, is there a key way to know if you've given that up, or what are the signs to kind of know you're losing your power? Like, have I lost well, no, this would never happen. I was going to say, have I lost my power to Luke, but that's hilarious.
Yeah, adorable. But when in the process, to your reference with political leaders and other folks in positions of power, not a political show, when they're stringing you up by your ankles, you've probably lost the power. But is there a point before then when you kind of go like, is there a ground zero bottom? Do you have to hit that rock bottom before you can kind of start clawing this back?
I don't think we need to, but I do think often that's what happens. I certainly know that's what happened to me in a health type situation. I hit rock bottom and realized I'd given away a lot of my power, and I needed to figure out what that looked like and take it back. But there's many ways that can happen for people. And I also just believe it's not necessary. So like if you think about the fact that we're all born whole, and those who can't see, I have my hands up on a screen together, and we lose our power just one step at a time. We learn bad habits in our household. We then learn bad habits at school. We might go off to college and have roommates for the first time who don't have the best habits, right? We get further and further away from what might be our center. And we don't have to try to jump all the way back. And quite often we would fail if we did that. But what we can do is we can look around at our life and we can look at the various areas of our life, like we talked about, all those different areas. And we can take one step that brings us closer to our center, and one step, each week, each month, each year, because we didn't give it all away at once. We lost it slowly over time. And this idea of bringing it all back at once is probably unlikely. But instead, we can slowly bring ourselves back.
So we're talking about things in this sort of holistic, theoretical, out in the ether, power, losing it, all of this sort of thing. Is there a concrete example of
Yeah.
something where you go, I've lost this, I had this at one point, this is now gone, and I need to reclaim this?
Right. So if we talk about, let's just say boundaries, and boundaries is a buzzword. I like using it because most people understand what it means. Or actually, they don't. Most people think it means something, but they don't totally understand what it means. I believe
Heidi,
that
can you
boundary.
define boundaries?
Oh, yes. Yes,
Okay.
I can. Which boundary would you like? Because I have many.
So Heidi, what's your definition?
Well, it depends who I'm applying it to, right? Like I have boundaries with particular friends. I have boundaries with family members, and it depends on the family member. I think I have the boundaries with myself. I think it's, and they're not necessarily physical actual physical lines. It's like not the physical my dance space, your dance space, although sometimes it is.
Right.
It can be with a
Especially
person.
physical boundaries.
Correct. It
Yeah.
can be with some very specific people.
Do you
But
want to name any of them right now?
no,
Okay.
Tell us, Heidi.
Yeah.
I'll tell you after.
Yeah.
They might be listening to, no, they're not listening to this show. They should be listening to this
They
show,
should
but
be.
they
They're not.
don't.
Yeah.
In fact, they definitely should be.
Yeah.
But a boundary to me is something that you are consciously aware of, that you yourself have to consciously make sure you do or don't do, or set in place that if a certain thing occurs by, let's say, another person, that is your cue or sign to take action or not take action as a result. So, or something to set in place prior to an action. I'm making this very complicated
Yeah,
and
it
not
sounds like
saying
you're
it well.
describing it to
Yeah, maybe
landlord Asia.
I
Yeah.
know. I'm kind of going in a circle.
So to make it a little easier, how about
Yeah,
this?
thank you.
There's a person in your life that yells at you constantly, berates you verbally, and you're done
Luke.
with it.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So the boundary would be,
Okay. So if that person does that, prior to being around that person in any scenario, I'm going to know that I am only going to spend this very limited amount of time with them. I'm going to make sure that I am only around that person in scenarios that I have to be. So, for example, it's someone I love very dearly's birthday or wedding, or a particular event that I want to be at for that person, that person's going to be there. I may skip holidays if that person's going to be there, if I don't have to be at that event. If it's that person's child's birthday, I'll go to it for the child, but I will be there for a set amount of time. I will isolate myself from that person who berates me and does these things, not be in the same room with them. If I don't have to be, I'll be polite. I'll exit the situation as soon as I can, have a set amount of time frame, in and out.
so are you going to talk to them about this boundary? Or is your boundary just that you're ignoring them and trying to be away from them as much as you can?
Oh, no, I
What
would
is your
address.
actual boundary? Like, I don't want to be around this person?
I'll talk to them initially. I will say hello. I'll say goodbye. I'll be cordial. I will try not to draw attention to it, but I will get in, get out, because
So it's limiting time.
it's limiting time. Because I will know, at least in my own personal scenarios with that, I will know that having a conversation with them will not solve it.
Sure.
To try to resolve it, to try to resolve the conflict.
So basically your boundary is you're going to limit time with this person as much as possible. Yeah. So it depends where you are with this person. Like you said, if someone you really love and you can't avoid them, you don't want to avoid them, you still want them in your life, right? It's this first have a discussion with them that, look, I don't like when you talk to me like that. I'm not going to put up with it. It's a boundary I'm going to hold with you from here forward. If you talk to me like that, I'm walking out of the room. If you follow me, I'm walking out of the house. If you follow me beyond that, I'm calling the police. Like, it's having these steps that come after that, right? Because if we really want to keep that relationship and try to work on it, we have to figure out a way to have a boundary. And if it's crossed, this is the next level, and this is the next level, these types of things. And sometimes the furthest level, which it sounds like you might be at with this particular scenario, is like, I'm not going to be around you anymore.
Yeah, I was like, we're in different states. That's the only way we
That's
can do
easy.
this. Yeah.
So there's a lot of ways to set boundaries, and there's boundaries with your money, what you're allowing your money to go towards, what you'll give money to, what you won't. There's physical boundaries, how you're allowed to touch me, how you're allowed to engage me, my physical sense of my body. There's boundaries around time. Those people who always leave you hanging late, they show up 15, 20 minutes late for every single time you're supposed to meet, wasting your time there. There's boundaries around your love. I mean, there's so many types of boundaries, and so many people just get told, specifically women, from the time we're young, be a good girl, don't create waves, smile, nod, do all the things that we do when we're being raised in a society that wants girls to be quiet and nice. And, of course, this can apply to boys too. But we internalize that and we take that into adulthood. And then we think we can't speak up. And not speaking up stops us from being able to really meet our needs. Boundaries are being crossed, and then that leads to anger and resentment. And then we find, and that's actually, Luke, a great point. Like, what is the telltale sign? When you start having anger and resentment, most likely boundaries have been crossed. So you almost have to
Okay.
back into that and say,
Mm,
where is this coming from? And okay, so someone keeps crossing boundaries with me. Someone keeps doing something I don't appreciate. How do I put these steps in? How do I put these boundaries in? Because that's what's going to eliminate that essentially. So you're kind of taking your power back in that way. There's ways to do this with your health. There's ways to do this with your mindset, with your career, with your finances, right? There's a million ways to do this. But
Well, that's one thing I noticed with your book is a lot of the stuff in there is stuff that really you can sort of, not that you don't nuance it for different things, but there's sort of things that are applicable to all these things that are almost plug and play, right? You can almost kind of apply them to multiple things. Like so often in books, you have to kind of have a whole different set of rules for your relationship and a whole different diet and a whole different this. Like your book, a lot of these things, they're bite-sized principles that you can apply to all these things with just like a slightly different version of it, right?
sure.
Without redoing a whole different thing.
Right. And you get it. You're a self-help
Yeah.
changed person like me. I know
Yeah.
that about you and I know you're into it. And
Yeah.
I think that people that are looking for that, sometimes it's hard to find, it's hard to implement.
Yeah, without reinventing the wheel, which I
Right.
think is what was really cool with it. One of the many things, but
Thank
and
you.
this seems like an element or a version of CBT in some ways.
A
The
little bit. Yeah.
of you're figuring out what is causing this unease and then trying to remedy it and have backups for your issues. So can you explain a little bit about the book? In reading it, do you walk away with a list of principles of these are these lines I have decided that shall not be crossed anymore? What is the takeaway in some ways?
I think like anything, it's what you learn is how much you're going to put into it and where you really want to take it depends on your life and what you're dealing with. I see such a broad spectrum of people and issues and, just what someone needs to fix um, will depend upon where they are in their life and how they're going to move forward with that. So I think that it can be a little bit of any of that. If you want to go deep on it, there's a lot of journaling and meditation experiences, just basically things to think about that might open your eyes, might open one's eyes to where the issues present themselves. And that, wow, there's actually an easy way to do that. One of the things in the book that I talk a lot about is like, we typically are either the type of person, like on one column, one side or the other. We're either somebody who holds really strong boundaries, but we have a little bit of this harshness to us. And, that almost like a meanness. It's hard to hold boundaries in this really kind, compassionate way.
got it.
And I was someone who was raised in that way. Like I came out of the womb with boundaries, and I'm not even kidding. Like I didn't have to learn
She
how to
did.
hold boundaries. It's weird. But I have had to learn how to do them kindly because I'm like really blunt, really forceful, really aggressive with my words. I don't mean to be, but that's just who I am. I have a lot of masculine energy. And for a woman to have that and a girl when I was a girl, people are taken aback by it, right? So I had to learn how to try to come back to center in that way, where I add the kindness and the compassion and bring myself back a little bit with my boundaries into the center of, hey, you're not allowed to do that, but I really want you in my life. And I'm hoping we can figure out a way to move forward that'll work for both of us. Beforehand, I only knew how to say, hey, you can't do that. And, learning the two of them together. And I think mostly women are on the opposite side of me. They know how to do the real kind, compassionate thing, but not hold the boundary. And sometimes men have that more masculine side where they have the boundary, whatever, and they were never really learned to have the kind and compassionate piece.
How much of this did you learn the hard way?
Oh my God, all of it. All of it. Not only the physical piece hugely. I've had a lot of physical challenges in my life, but the mental piece and I've done a lot of work and so much of healing physically is doing the mental and spiritual work, and that was something that when I dove heavy into the physical healing, no one was really talking about or teaching me, and it wasn't until that piece was unlocked in me that I was able to actually start physically healing in a totally different way. So it's powerful.
So how does this manifest itself physically? You're saying that unlocking these things does that.
Yeah, so I mean, I believe very much, if you think almost like a tripod, of these, it should be three-pronged approach, but this mind, body, spirit. And if two of them are longer than the other, it's going to fall over. I don't care which is which. And so what I found was that it's very difficult to be healthy if you're missing the emotional and the spiritual component. So until I started to realize that was missing in my life, I was self-sabotaging with different things. I mean, for me at a young age, it was partying. Like I partied like nobody's business. And like so many people out there that are doing drugs and drinking a lot and partying and numbing out. I mean, that is a lot what we're doing. We're numbing out. But many people in that position are actually really spiritually inclined and they don't have something to connect to. So this feeling, this high that we're given from these drugs is a way to temporarily connect. And I found I was doing that. I really was. I was a very spiritual person with nowhere to let that out, which is crazy because I was raised in all Catholic schools, very, very Catholic, but I didn't click with that. So it left me with this feeling like, oh, religion is nonsense. It's not for me. There's nothing there. I always knew there was something spiritually, but I had no way to access it until I really started diving in and studying it.
And obviously, I mean, using the word spiritual versus religious,
Sure.
there is that fork. I'm assuming you don't necessarily mean I mean, I guess the dictionary definition of faith is, but anyway, you're talking about is it kind of that acknowledging some higher power that has an influence on one's life? Is it trying to reach that sort of moment of bliss, of peace? What do you see that part as? Because I feel like
Yes.
work in life, you've got, I know what I want to do there. Spiritual is a little more vague as to where you can go with that.
Sure. I mean, kind of yes, yes, and yes, yes to all of that. I
All right,
think
great. Well, thanks for coming on.
I do believe all of it can be a way to get there. And I think that connecting with all these different things are important. So some people are going to find gratitude takes them to this level that they're unable to get to otherwise. You know, starting a gratitude journal, as simple as that sounds, sitting down and writing as much as you can that you're grateful. And I've done this exercise so many times. And after even no matter how many times I do it, after a page or two, it starts to really slow down. And I think, I know there's a billion things to be grateful for. Like, what is wrong with me? Why can't I access that? And when you push your brain to go further and further and further by not getting up until you have 1,000 items on that list, it sounds insane. Maybe it's 100 items the first time you do it. But when you do that, what ends up happening is it like shifts your brain for the rest of the day, for the rest of the week, however long that sticks with you. And you start looking for things to be grateful for because something there's like an open file in your brain of what you're looking for gratitude. You're trying to fill out this list. Then all of a sudden it's like, oh gosh, look at that. The garbage man came today. I actually have somebody who comes to my house and picks up trash. Like, what an amazing thing, right? Or wow, groceries were delivered to my house today. Or wow, I have a roof that stays over my head. There's like building that somebody figured out how to put up walls and keep a roof over my head. And then someone else figured out how to pipe in heat or air conditioning wherever someone's watching, right? All these different things that seem so minuscule and we look at all day long without any appreciation become wondrous to us. And that is a game changer right there. So gratitude could be a key to it. I like to say the difference between meditation and prayer is meditation is listening, whereas praying is talking to God, the universe, higher self, your higher self, if you believe in that. And when I started, and I believe most people have this experience, and a lot of people tell me this, when we start tapping into those things, synchronicities start happening in a weird way. Like people show up at our doorstep that we've been waiting to meet. And I'm being, that's not literal, but we can run into the right person at the gas station, the grocery store, out at dinner, people we've been trying to get in touch with for a long time. Opportunities can show up in a way that is like really weird and synchronistic and just things start happening. Whereas then you believe like, wow, I'm in the flow. Like something's going on here. Life is starting to look different. And it really does. And it's like all these little changes over time start us down this path of being in the flow. And I believe that that is true spirituality. That's like when we're connected.
Not how long does it take before you reach your peak nirvana, but how can you tell if you're doing it right? Because I feel like when I have tried meditation, when I have tried other things, there's always that nagging voice in the back of my head that's kind of going like, are you doing this right? I don't
Yep.
know if am I breathing correctly?
Yeah.
Am I not aware of what I need to be aware of? How do you, center yourself? How do you keep your mind empty?
Sure.
How do you know when you're doing it correctly?
You're doing it correctly no matter what. So what you just said to me is what every single person at every single meditation class I've attended or taught has ever said. And
Mm-hmm.
I do believe the point of meditation is to first realize that this is all happening all
Mm-hmm.
the time, right? And typically when these things are happening, because we're running with one thing I love with meditation, I watch it and I watch my thoughts. And it's almost like this stream, right? Like, oh my gosh, there's so many other things I could be doing right now than this. Oh, I just heard a noise. What is that noise outside? And oh God, I should be doing this. And oh, I just remembered something on my to-do item. Am I supposed to open my eyes and write that down? Or am I supposed to sit here in meditation and continue it? Am I da, 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 da? And
What's
what
that noise in the kitchen? What is happening over there? I thought the dishes were already done.
I
What is
can't
that?
even believe they're doing this in the middle of the meditation,
Is
right?
there
What
a
are they
one-man
thinking?
band in
What
my
hit?
house? What is going on?
Mm-hmm.
Stick
All of
Van
it.
Dyke here?
Yes, all of it. And then what I realized, like that experience gives me a moment where I pull away from my thoughts. And my thoughts are in front of me in a different way. Normally they're like in here buried and I don't even know they're happening. And
Mm-hmm.
they're in the background. But when they're pulled out in front of me and I notice, okay, all this is happening when I'm trying for it not to. What's happening when I have no idea and I'm not even trying to get rid of them, right? I know they're just flooding my brain. So there's first the separation from our thoughts. And then once we get there, we have to learn how to drop those thoughts. Each time they come, you drop them. And it becomes a practice of dropping your thoughts. And then that's the separation of the thoughts aren't me. Because what you'll start to realize, or what I started to realize, was I could have contradicting thoughts in the same literal 3 minutes. Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, it's cold in here. No, I'm hot in here. Oh, it's this. Oh, it's right. So
Mm-hmm.
then all of a sudden I'm like, wait a minute. Those thoughts aren't even me. Those are things that are coming through me almost like an antenna. And I can let them come in and drop and come in and drop. And then I start noticing how many of them are negative, how many of them are positive, how many sound like my mom, how many sound like my dad, how many sound like my fourth grade teacher, how many sound like the priest that I was raised listening to, how many sound like that politician, how many sound like the social media platform that I'm on, that algorithm is feeding me whatever it wants to be feeding me, right? So, I mean, these thoughts, like through the progression of meditation, within a short amount of time, sometimes weeks, sometimes months, we get to this place of like, wait a minute, that's not even my thought. It's being placed there. I can release it. I can replace it. Now I can choose to steer my boat in my life in a certain way versus just let that boat get tossed around the waters like it would otherwise if I wasn't thinking about noticing or meditating on any of this.
And that seems to be the interesting extra step. I feel like what I always was told with meditation is it is the acknowledgement of the thing and just noticing it is the key, and kind of like recognizing it, that yes, there's the refrigerator buzzing again. Yes, here's this thing. But you're saying, kind of going that step further of identifying them where they're coming from as they are sort of dropping in front of you, and then taking the next step of like removing yourself an extra step to kind of go
Right.
like, I didn't put any of this stuff in here.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think the meditation and the contemplation beyond the actual meditation
Mm-hmm.
is the most powerful part.
And it seems like it's something that's probably with you the rest of the day, or the rest of the, that I, similar to the gratefulness, is like you're just continually doing this whether or not you know it.
Watching, you mean? Watching
Yes,
your thoughts
yes.
and
And
realizing they're not.
identifying other thoughts. Yeah.
Yeah, I do think they can last, depending on the person, a certain amount of time. Like I know when I go away to meditation retreats and I'm gone for a week, that will come home with me and be with me very much for the first few days. 90% for the next week, 80% for the next week, 70. I mean, really, it goes down quickly because I come back into life. I come back into craziness. I come back into believing the nonsense because
Mm-hmm.
I'm not surrounded by the energy of 100 people doing the exact same thing and us supporting each other with this type of talk and us believing this. And, I come back to a place where everyone, not everyone, we're having a discussion like this, but these discussions are rare, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I have to really make a point of keeping my circle. And I do this. I have online communities, I have in-person meetups and communities. I mean, I really try hard to at least 2 hours a day be in this type of conversation, in this type of community, working with teachers, working with students, working with other groups that are on the same path to keep that top of mind. But it's very difficult if you're not constantly renewing this.
Can you share with us just a little bit for our listeners, just because they don't have, as our listeners often don't, really have that background? You sort of alluded to it, of how this all came to be for you, like that physical journey, because I think that's an amazing piece of the puzzle, that physical pain you alluded to that kind of brought you here.
Right. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I believe a lot of people enter this space because of exactly that, and I'm no exception. I got really, well, actually, the majority of my life, I was really sick with digestive issues, stomach issues. I look back on pictures of myself as a baby, and I had a big old round, literally looked like a ball was in my stomach. And my mom would say, "You were always colicky, you were always a sick baby." And so, anyways, this is something that I've had for a long time. I worsened it. I definitely worsened it by not fostering the connection we're talking about right now, and instead went deep into party land at a really young age. I ate horribly. I didn't take care of my body. I didn't exercise. I didn't do any of the things right. And when I was in my early 20s, I had my appendix rupture. I ended up in the hospital. They did a CAT scan and said, "Wow, not only is your appendix ruptured, but there's a grapefruit-sized tumor in your colon. We'd like to do exploratory surgery."
Oh,
So long story short is they did. I had Crohn's disease. They took the tumor out along with about half of my colon and 6 feet of my small intestines. And I started a journey of, what is Crohn's disease? I'd never heard of it. How do I heal myself from this? I was given 20 some pills to take on a daily basis at 20, early 20s, years old, and just told, "You're going to live a life that's extremely difficult, sick, and stressful." And I thought, no, I'm not. Like, why would I do that?
Right, like,
And
fuck that.
and they basically said, "Well, because there's no other way to cure it." And like, again, this little nagging voice inside of me, like, again, I was spiritual and I was numbing it out with the partying, with the drugs, with the drinking. This voice inside of me that really ruled everything that I normally like push down. And I do believe part of it is because I had been so sick and I had been in the hospital for so long. I hadn't been partying. I hadn't been doing drugs. I was faced with my mortality in a massive way at a really young age. And I started to get a little spiritually connected. And this piece of me was like, "Nope, they're wrong. You can do it. Nope, they're wrong." And I said this to the doctors, "No, I really want to do this. I can figure it out." And I knew nothing about health or wellness or eating right or any of it, right? But I was like, something, I believed the voice inside of me. I knew my intuition was right. And I remember thinking, well, then I guess you're not my doctor. I'm going to go on a search for the right doctor. And so I did. And I went around, like, even calling these offices back then, saying, I mean, this was 25, almost 30 years ago, and saying to these places, like, "Hey, I want to interview a doctor to see if he'll be my
Still
doctor
like,
to help
what?
me." Yeah. And they're like, "What do you mean interview a doctor?" I'm like,
No, you're
"Yeah."
not.
So I started that and I found this amazing doctor. And he said to me, "I don't know how you're going to do it, but I'll monitor you." And I thought, oh, because that's what I needed, right? I didn't need to like try to pull myself off these 20 some meds that literally like saved my life.
mm-hmm.
I needed to slowly figure this out with somebody monitoring my condition and telling me, like, "Okay, you're okay to go to the next step." And that's what the doctor did. And along the same line as that healing journey, like I started coming off these pills half by half by half by half. It took a year and a half. I started losing weight at the same time, which started making me feel a lot better. That, of course, made me want to learn about physically moving my body and working out. I got into that. I became a fitness instructor, a yoga instructor. I went back to school to become a nutritionist. I just like dove deep into it. And it was the spiritual side of things. It was the meditation. It was the connecting to a higher power. It was starting to like learn about the negative thoughts and what they were doing to me. That really helped me kind of rise up in a different way. And so in the matter of just a few years, I was off on my drugs. I lost 40 some pounds. I completely reversed Crohn's disease that was irreversible, incurable, all these other things they'll say about it. And I have lived symptom free ever since. And I have nothing to attribute it to other than figuring out these pieces, but slowly,
Mm-hmm.
figuring them out. And it works. It really does. If somebody wants it and wants to do the things that are necessary.
How much do you draw on that story in working with people and writing this book to sort of say like, yeah, I've been there, or I have had it worse than you.
Right.
Follow
Yeah.
my lead.
My first book was completely about that journey. And I heard, I mean, people constantly wanted me to talk to their brothers, their sisters, their children, their cousins, and it just got to be a lot having that conversation over and over. And so I wrote a book about it. Literally, that was what made me write my first book. And then I realized it connected with so many other people with other physical health journeys. It wasn't just Crohn's disease. And a lot of people had the same experience. And so drawing on that for all of my platform, for everything I do, is probably the biggest piece of what I do. And being real and vulnerable with people. Like, I was in a bad spot. I thought I was having fun. Now that I'm like totally sober, and I look back on that and think it was kind of silly. I was trying to connect, I was trying to numb out. I was trying to connect with something that I couldn't get to without it. But now being able to get to it without it, it seems silly to go through that process and hurt my body at that time. And so, I do draw on that a lot, but I also like have total sympathy for wherever anyone is. Like, without somebody to guide you through this, and without the ability, like, I was so lucky I didn't have a family when this hit me. It could have only been a few years later, and I wouldn't have been able to quit my job and figure it out, right? I mean, that's a luxury that I had that not a lot of people do have. And it's also just, depending on where our brain was, where we come from in our life, where we believe certain systems and people and families and what we've been fed our whole life. If we believe and we buy into that, it's going to take a longer time to get out of it. So yeah, I draw on it a lot.
Well, and not to like spoiler alert it, but anyone who reads this book will learn that we all know life throws us other curveballs, and you've had totally other
Sure.
physical setbacks of a totally different nature that derailed you further in a whole different way that I was privy, because I know you, of watching you go through that journey, even with this knowledge and everything you were already an expert in, already helping people through in this space, and watching what you came through with this that helped kind of inspire this book even further,
Sure.
which was amazing.
Thank you.
Which,
Yeah. So what Heidi's referring to is I had a bad bike accident. And of course, healthy lifestyle, riding that bike every day.
Right. This is what you get for being healthy.
And I took a really bad tumble, and I shattered my elbow and ripped both the meniscuses and both of my knees. And I had to go through a lot of surgery, a lot of recovery, a ridiculous amount of pain. I chose to manage that without opioids because it was going to be years of recovery. And my doctor specifically talked to me and said, when we have really bad orthopedic rebuilds, like in this case, we don't give opioids because you'll never come off of them. And I hated him for about a week, maybe a month or two. And then I realized it was the best thing he did for me. And I literally redesigned my business with pain, and, how do I help people with pain and myself, and created creams and CBD products to do that. So it does, like everything, right? We either afterwards have PTSD about something, or we have PTG, which is like post-traumatic growth. So it's either post-traumatic stress disorder, and we stay stuck in this, like, this trauma happened and I can't get past it, or we do all the things mentally and spiritually we have to do to get past it, and it becomes growth. And I very much have grown in the last few years in every way around that, from that accident.
Those of us around you kind of grew with you. We kind of got to benefit from your injury. So, and I think like, and I do know you, and people listening will know that I know you, but truly I wouldn't have you on just because I know you. Lots of people we haven't had on. And truly, I do think the book reflects that. And I think your products definitely reflect that. So
Thank you.
I think it.
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of lessons in those moments. I mean, there's years of lessons. And honestly, I'm still figuring out all the lessons, because these types of huge situations in life take years to unfold and redirect our life if we're following a path, right? But one of the big lessons I found was the people in my life who did and didn't support me. It was really quite interesting to see people show up in certain ways. Heidi, you and I became a lot closer during this situation because of the support you gave me, and because how much we were able to connect. And actually, sometimes when I'm in the most vulnerable moments, I'm the most open. And so I'm able to talk about these types of things with people that I might not have normally talked to about this. We know each other in business world, and our parents were people were friends
Yeah.
in our family from years ago, but we've never like sat down and talked about spirituality and
Hmm.
all these types of things and sometimes being brought to your knees on an accident or an illness or losing somebody you love or whatever the tragedy is allows people to open up and connect with others in a way that brings, in my opinion, spirituality into the picture, right? And brings
Hmm.
God down or your higher self down or whatever it is, and allows us to be open and vulnerable with each other.
Hmm.
To get your copy of this and Cassie's other books, check out her website, CassieSobelton.com. For more information on the CBD cream that saved Heidi's life and any of Cassie's other CBD products, you can find those at her website, thewellnesscollections.com.
Nigel, is that you? Are you here, Nigel?